G'day folks, it's Rob here and welcome to our small little backyard farm. Today's clip I'm going to be giving a bit of a gander at the veggie pod. She's been going for a couple of months now and we're really chuffed with the way she's grown us some very healthy capsicums or sweet peppers, you folks in other countries may know them as. We have a huge problem with fruit fly here in our particular neck of the woods of southeast Queensland. They sting a lot of the fruiting plants, the peppers, tomatoes, mangoes, the pepinos, pretty much all. If it's a sweet tasty fruit, the fruit fly like to lay their eggs in it. This little pod here has been a bit of a lifesaver for us this season, so I thought I'd give you a look at that today, and also some basil I want to plant out in there to give it a little bit of shade under the canopy. And I've got some seeds, some lettuce seeds, both some saved and some purchased, that I want to sow out, so I thought I'd give you a bit of a gander at that. Just quickly before we get started, I did want to let Aussies know that if you are interested in purchasing any veggie pods, I've got a discount code over on my website. It's only for Aussies only at this point in time, sorry folks, so just nip on over to that web page and I'll just explain to you how that all works, so suss that out if you're interested. But for now I'll stop nattering on and we'll open up the pod and have a bit of a gander. So I'll just open her up and give you a bit of a look at the capsicum. As you can see, she's standing up a little bit better than she was last time I gave you a bit of a gander in the pod. So there's a better angle for you folks, just to give you a quick look. This little capsicum or sweet pepper here, she was sort of sprawling all over the bed out the front here. She was growing up against the back wall of the veggie pod when the top was down. So we had a few issues with broken branches. I actually accidentally snapped one that was growing out the front here yesterday, so we still used the green fruit it had on it, but we decided that it would probably be a good idea to stake them up. So Kira and I got out here yesterday afternoon. We drilled a few small holes in the bamboo canes. We attached some little bits of baling twine, and through those bits of twine we've attached some cucumber clips or tomato clips just to hold the branches off the soil. So the other thing we did find is when we were having a lot of rain a week or so ago, I did find that the fruit sitting on top of the constantly wet soil did cause a few just to go a little bit manky on the bottom. Still edible, but they just went a little bit soft. So holding them off the ground like this is going to be a great way to stop that happening. Not only that, we get a little bit more real estate down here and around the side to play with. So today what I'm going to do is I'm going to be popping out a couple of plugs of this basil just over this side over here, the far side, just down the front, so probably one towards the back, another one just here and another one here. And the idea of these isn't to let them grow to a massive bush. It's just to let them grow to a certain height, snip them all off, use them in salads or pestos or whatever, and then at a later date we might pull them out and replace them if they lose their vigour. Just along the front of the bed here I was going to sow out a couple of different lots of lettuce. I've got our own, what I think is coral lettuce from last year. I forgot to label it correctly at the time. I do know they're lettuce seeds, but I'm not too sure the variety, so we're just going to put a few of them along the front. And then towards the back here, I'm going to put Amish deer tongue lettuce that we got from Sandy. Thank you very much, Sandy. So I'm just going to sow these seeds out directly. So I'll get to that and then I'll have a little bit of a chat about the pot itself for those folks who've been asking about it. So just along the back here, I'm just going to make a little bit of a furrow, and I'm going to sprinkle rather sparingly a couple of these seeds, the Amish deer tongue. I don't want too many coming up. Last time it got a little bit overcrowded with the lettuce. Just cover them back up. Now the coral lettuce along the front here, same thing, just a little bit of a trench. Actually might move it back a little bit. These guys here will probably be used as a microgreen more than anything else. I'll come back and just snip them off fairly low, just so we can get a few small salads. So same thing, I'm just going to sprinkle a couple of these seeds along here. It'll also be interesting to see what sort of a lettuce these are. Just cover that up lightly. And there we go, there's two lots of lettuce sown out. Now to pop in some basil. So just in here, like I said, 3 lots, we'll probably put one there. Make a fairly large hole for them. Another one here, and another one here. So thank you very much again, Brendan, for the dibber. Used it quite a bit with these seedlings. And I am just going to put a whole plug in. Just firm him down nicely. This one here is looking fairly advanced at the back. And this last one, I think this tray needs a bit of a water too. They're starting to look a little bit wilty, but I'll fix that up in a tick. So there we go. So just quickly talking about watering, this little fitting down here takes the normal click-on attachment from a hose. That section of pipe runs inside the little shade cover and it goes to two little micro sprayers or misters. There's one there and there's another one just down there, and they water, once the lid's closed of course, they water down on top of the plants. The water penetrates through the soil and collects in the reservoirs down the bottom. Once the reservoir is full, the water will dribble out the reservoir holes in the base of the bed, and you can pretty much will just turn off the sprayer. I have seen other people just put their hose nozzles in the corners at the front, just let the water run through the soil and fill up the reservoir that way. I do think though that if you are sowing out seeds and starting off new seedlings in the bed, it does pay to use the sprinkler. Plug the hose in and away you go. I'll probably run this bed on that for the next 2 or 3 weeks, and then at a later date, yeah, I might just revert back to just popping the hose down in the corner and just letting the reservoirs fill that way. So that's a little bit of a VeggiePod hack that myself and others are using. So as you folks who have been following us for a while know, pretty much all my garden beds here are self-watering wicking beds that I've made myself. I've had a few people ask, why did I go out and buy one of these jobbies? Well, to tell you the truth, they're just easy for me to work with, especially being on this little bit of a stand, and I wanted to try them out to see how they'd go for mum and dad. Their garden space is actually in their front yard, and I really do think that these little frames that fit on the top are a lifesaver when it comes to the fruit fly issues that we have around here. You don't need the stand either, by the way. A lot of people will just set these up on the ground. I like the stand because of my bad back, and mum and dad will appreciate them because of their bad knees. They won't have to bend down as much to tend the garden. Comparing the build between making one of these and a normal wicking bed, if you're fairly handy, you could probably knock one of these together just as quickly as you could a wicking bed, if not faster. Everything meets up really nicely, all the joins are nice and snug. You might need to use a little bit of elbow grease, but they go together relatively easily. All the holes on the frame matched up perfectly. They were all drilled nicely. I'm just really impressed with the quality of the build itself. Obviously, you do need to use some sort of well-draining potting mix in this. There's been recommendations I've seen online. When you use your potting mix, add some extra perlite in or vermiculite just to help with that drainage. A few people have been using some really cheap potting mix and it just turns into a bit of a gluggy mess, unfortunately. So yeah, definitely you might want to consider using a top quality potting mix and maybe supplementing it with a little bit of perlite. These guys here, I really do like the built-in irrigation up the top. Like I said though, I have been just dropping the hose down the front here just to let the reservoir fill up, but that's my preference. There's a lot of people out there just sticking with the spray method of irrigation and it's working fine for them. They might actually be something to consider if you're renting, because you can pull them to pieces, pop the soil in bags or containers, take them to wherever you're renting next, or if you're lucky enough to have bought a house, put it all back together again and you're up and gardening in no time flat. So they're a good little gardening system in that respect. I know that 2 places we've lived previously, the landlords were dead against gardening, us digging in the soil, but you know, something like this, they can't really complain at all because you're not digging up the lawn. So all in all, I do think they are a tidy little build. Not for everyone, I know. I don't think I'm trying to flog them off for you, even though I'm going to give you a discount code in a minute. I just do think there are some people out there who may find something like this a bit of a benefit to them in their own garden. So on to the discount code for you folks who are interested. I'm not going to put it on the video here, it'll be over on my website, so you can click on that little link there. This video will be up longer than the code's valid, so I don't want to confuse people by having it on the screen. I will let you know though that the deal and the discount does run out at midnight at the end of December the 31st, so you need to use the code before then to get the 10% off the VeggiePods and the stands, not the transport unfortunately, just the VeggiePod kit itself. So there you go. Just quickly before I wind up, I would like to thank the marvellous folks over on Patreon. Without their support, I wouldn't have been able to afford to buy the first VeggiePod we got here. So thank you very much, folks. If you'd like to check out our super contributors and also their own web pages and Facebook groups and pages and things like that, you can check them out in the description below. So I do hope that you have enjoyed the clip and maybe you've picked up a pointer or two. Also hope that your own gardens are booming, and I will catch you next time. Cheers folks, have a top one.